Hi, my name is William Malone, and I am the author of Cops in Kabul, a Newfoundland peacekeeper in Afghanistan, published by Flanker Press. This is the second installment of a series of readings that I'll be doing over the coming weeks. The first of which was a couple of weeks ago, that basically I described the mission itself and what our mandate was in going to Afghanistan to help build the capacity of the Afghan National Police. In today's installment, I'll be talking about the day that we departed Canada en route to Afghanistan. But before I get into the actual reading, I'd first like to dedicate today's reading to Constable Heidi Stevenson of the RCMP, who lost her life in the line of duty in Nova Scotia some 10 days ago. And I'd also like to extend my condolences to all of the families who lost loved ones and friends that day. So today's reading will be from chapter 4. It's called Wheels Up. And with all the chapters in my book, I usually take a quote from a famous individual or writer. And this one is from T.S. Eliot, and it says, "Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go." On Monday, May 30th, 2011, I woke up around 5:30 in the morning, about a half hour before my alarm clock went off. Throughout my life, I'd never slept well before traveling, but today felt quite different. All through the night, I had tossed and turned, knowing that today was the day that I'd be going to Afghanistan. Going to a place I had only seen on television. The place where insurgents strap bombs to their bodies and blow themselves up in the name of Allah. And the place that had claimed the lives of far too many Canadian and NATO soldiers. From the initial days of Canada's involvement, all of us had seen the images of the ramp ceremonies and the flag-draped coffins, returning to Canadian Forces Base Trenton in Ontario, Canada, for their final farewell and tribute as their funeral motorcade passed along the Highway of Heroes. These images will be forever etched in our collective psyches, and rightfully so. Our training was now in the rearview mirror. We had worked hard and consumed every piece of information that we could get our hands on. Despite all of the preparation, very few of us knew what to expect upon arrival. As I left the house that morning, it felt surreal knowing that I was going to a war zone on the other side of the world, and that I would not be back for quite some time, if at all. One of my closest work colleagues and very dear friends, Ron Dupuis, whom I have known since training at the RCMP Academy, agreed to pick me up and drive me to the Ottawa airport. Along the way, I stopped to see my daughters, Brittany and Taylor, to say one last goodbye. That was very difficult. It was much more difficult than I had anticipated. It was not my intention to get all mushy and emotional, but that's exactly what I did. As a result, the girls began to cry. I wanted it to be more of a later tater kind of deal rather than goodbye, but that didn't work out very well. I knew that by going to Afghanistan there was a very real possibility of getting hurt or worse, and they knew it. I didn't want to let go of the girls that day, but I knew that I had to. I did my best to reassure them by telling them that everything would be fine and that they did not have to worry. When I said that, my oldest daughter looked at me and said, "Yeah, right, Dad." As I walked toward the car, I looked back and waved and blew them each a kiss. I got in the car with Ron and we quietly drove away. I remember looking in the mirror and seeing them on the doorstep, watching us as we drove down the street. Up to that point, I could not recall another time when I ever felt that emotional about my relationship with my girls and how much I truly loved them. As Ron and I continued our 30-minute drive to the airport, I received a call from my best buddy and lifelong friend, Paul Kenny. Paul and I had known each other for more than 35 years. He was essentially the brother I never had. During most of our conversations, he was usually pretty gregarious and cracking jokes. But on this morning, he was more subdued and not his usual jovial self. We chit-chatted about a number of things, mostly family stuff, and we shared a few laughs about our days growing up in Newfoundland. But I knew from the tone in his voice that he was worried about me going overseas. I understood where he was coming from, knowing that I would probably feel the same way if the roles were reversed. He told me to stay safe and let me know that he, his wife, Heather, and his daughters, Lauren and Claire, fully supported me. I also knew that, God forbid, if anything were ever to happen to me, Paul would move both heaven and earth to look after everything to ensure that my daughters were okay. All of this may sound a little fatalistic and grim, but these were the kinds of things that we had to think about prior to our deployment. We needed to make sure that all of our affairs were in order in the event that something went terribly wrong. As my conversation with Paul ended, Ron and I arrived at the airport. I got out of the car and said, "See you later, pal," and thanked him for taking the time to see me off. I grabbed my luggage, entered the departures area to join the rest of my policing colleagues. Everyone was upbeat and there was a sense of excitement, as well as some nervous tension in the air. As we waited in the line to check in, the ticket agents at the Air Canada counter looked at us and all the baggage we were taking. To them, it must have looked like we were going on one massive camping trip. But I don't know if too many people want to go camping in a war zone. Although, I suspect there are a few people out there who would not hesitate to give it a go. After getting through security, we all gathered in the Air Canada lounge to await our departure. We would spend the next couple of hours chatting about the mission and continuing to get to know each other. I remember a couple of people closely monitoring the news, trying to get the latest information on events in Afghanistan. Whatever news we did get, it generally wasn't good. We finally boarded Air Canada Flight 889 and settled in for the first leg of our journey to Frankfurt, Germany. Our travel would take us from Ottawa to Frankfurt to Dubai, and then finally into Kabul. After almost 17 hours of flying, we would literally be on the opposite side of the globe in a foreign land, once traveled by the likes of Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan. As we got closer to Dubai, I looked at the map and the in-flight entertainment system, and it indicated that we were approximately 1 hour and 6 minutes from our destination, flying at an altitude of 39,000 feet. This put us somewhere over Iran. Our planned route took us over the Arabian Sea and then eventually into Dubai. This would complete the second leg of our journey and would also be the last hub of modernity that we would see for quite some time. We had a 3 or 4 hour layover before getting on our final flight to Kabul. There was still time to turn back. In a few short hours, Afghanistan would no longer be some mysterious and far-off place on a map. It would become a very real and dangerous place that we would all call home for the next 12 months. It was where the proverbial rubber hit the road. I know that it may sound like a cliche, but it was where we were all going to try and make a difference. What that difference would be, no one really knew. The hours quickly passed, and we boarded our Safi Airlines flight for the final leg to Kabul. We were almost there. That's it for this session. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.